So I was getting this ready to paint, and I kind of figured that before I risked the chance of destroying it and it never firing again, I would show everyone what I did to get to this point. I've had it like this for a couple of days. I've done some pretty goofy stuff, like this is not the knife, but I cut and put a knife right there, and then I put it like that, and it all worked well and good, but I figured it was too bulky for what I planned on using this blaster for. But I've had it in this configuration for a while, and this is what I considered finish. So I'd show people how I got to this point, what I did, and if you're new to Nerf modding, this is actually a pretty good place to start. And by looking at this, you should be able to replicate it, no problem. But basically, to disassemble the blaster, you're going to use a Phillips head screwdriver, and there's two different types of screws. There's short ones, which go in on the short parts up here by the rail. There's one there, and all the rest of them are long. And then just imagine this is the front of the blaster. Once you got those out, the easiest way I've seen to take this guy apart is to kind of work back here where the priming indicator is, and just gently apply pressure until you get it all apart. You never want to rank on it from one side because you risk breaking everything. And this guy is actually pretty hard to get apart your first time because of this wing, which fits right on here on this metal bar, which can make it really difficult to put back in. And when you put it back together, you got to make sure that this wing is actually with that ridge right there so you can put it back on straight. Once you got the top off, or you got it into two parts, the handle will just come right out. You don't need to really do anything with this. I found this to be adequate. I've never had to open it before, but it's nice. I don't ever recommend you try to paint this part because of this rail right here. If you paint that and it gets messed up, it won't function properly, and there's not going to be an easy way to fix that. So whatever paint job you plan on doing with this blaster, I recommend keeping this exactly the way you left it. Just put it to the side and forget about it. There wasn't a whole lot done in the back. There was a whole lot done up in the front. It's going to be way easier to show you like this. So in my original video, I kind of showed you there was a stupid little lock up here where you put a dart in and it pushes a tooth down, pushes a plate up, which has a hole in it, which makes a seal. It made not a very good seal, but it did work. In fact, the stock Boomco Whip Blast actually performs pretty darn well, but it didn't create a very good seal. That whole piece can be removed, and if you want to just fill the gap in with some kind of piece of either like CPVC, or if you just want to use brass, or just fill it in with glue, you can do that to create a much better seal to make it the stock whip butts even better. But to get to this point, what I did is I just cut out everything using a sanding wheel right here with my Dremel. This is a Dremel 200. It's a cheap one. It's the stock unit, and it has served me well for the last couple of years, even though Boba Lolo said it's trash. He's right, it sucks. It has two speeds, slow as shit and fast as shit, and even has a third option where if you put it too far down, it'll stop working, which is great. But sanding wheel, I just sanded everything out, and these cuts right here, I just cut it like that. I did that completely blind, but if you want to see where the cuts were, underneath this putty, it was literally right here, about right before this bulge in the shell where it put in the 3, and got that open. And once I got that all cleaned out, I put the original messenger kind of barrel in there and made sure that it fit and I could close it and it looked good. Then I took this all out, and I'll show you how to do that right now. This gear comes out first. This one, there's nothing that's going to fly off of it or anything. Then you've got the little gear right here. You've got the 2-part gear right here. And then you've got this gear, which has a spring on it. And now I got to try to get this out. There we go. And you've got these 3 bars that come with it. They go in order of right here, the shortest, medium, long. But you take all those out and put them to the side so you don't lose anything. So that gets care of the gears, and that's how they go back in. What I did in my first time I put this back together is I put this gear in there like that, which fit perfectly. The spring fits right on it, but the issue I was having is it wasn't getting that much power, and I believe that's because this, well, obviously this gear is meant to be like this and not like this, so don't do that when you put yours back together. Then you want to make sure you really carefully that you get this out without losing your catch spring. Pull out your catch spring, and then the whole plunger assembly now should come out. So this is the original catch, this is the original plunger tube, and this is obviously just literally glued on there. To glue that on, I just kind of set it flat. I took this all apart. This just goes in, you just turn it like that, slides out. I put it on a table. I put the messenger barrel on there like this, and to get it temporarily put on there, after I removed all the hot glues, I used super glue, Loctite super gel stuff, and put it on there and held it like this for a couple of minutes, and that got it to the point where I could pick it up like this. And then I went around the edges here with plumber's goop, which creates a really nice seal, and once you get that on, you should have an airtight seal with it. And of course, it's actually 100% what do you call it, level. It's not twisted or anything like that. So got that together. Remember your plunger tube, when it goes back in, the ridge goes at the top. Plunger rod here, I didn't do anything with. This is 100% stock. Keep in mind of this little rubber piece right here. That's really important to keep there. It's what protects your blaster from any kind of wear and tear from the shock of the plunger tube, and also what helps your blaster catch. Sounds weird, but it does. So, got all that out, and you can see the same kind of thing right here. So, originally, let me get this out of the way. This didn't mess with the spring at all, just kind of tucks in there. And this one, I did mess with the spring. I got a better spring because this is actually a catch. So, you might have to replace, if you try to do this, keep in mind you're going to need lots of little tough springs, which you can find a variety pack at Home Depot, which will have a bunch of springs in it. That way you can replace all the ones, and just don't make them too tough, but make them tough enough to withstand the whip. But I put this back in there, and to get this, you know, when I was making sure that it was actually going to fit together, I got it like this, and then I honestly took, when I sawed off the front of the Rebel Messenger plunger, the actual blaster, I looked at the blaster, I looked at where this, you know, from this angle, imagine this is the rest of the Rebel one, I saw that this right here was going to be, you know, it's obviously going to stick out, and again, no measurements needed, I just kind of eyeballed it and cut it, and when it didn't fit in here perfectly, I cut it a little bit more, using just a standard Dremel cutting wheel here. These are really useful. And just cut it down until it fit perfectly, and I'm glad it did. I got it right here with the side of my case that I already made a pre-cut with. You will have to cut this out, by the way. I just sanded it out mostly to make sure that this chunky part fits in there, but that's all I did. It was just eyeballed completely, and from looking at it now, I'm sure somebody can improve on that, but if you just wanted to get kind of the same thing I have going on, you could just kind of look to see where I cut it, you know, and you should be able to look at that and do a pretty good job, probably a better job than I did, but got that together. So I cut it and I kind of wedged it down the front and just made sure that it was actually level or symmetrical, and I aligned it pretty good. It's not perfect, but pretty good. Then I just attacked it with JB Weld plastic welder, which is like $4 a tube, and I used about a third of the tube on this, but that held on just flawlessly. Then of course I did have to come back here and sand everything, and I actually cleaned it up, so with some really cheap finishing files I got from Harbor Freight, got that all together, and it's worked fine for the last couple of days. About last week, no issues whatsoever. So to get this back together, make sure your teeth are facing down. Go ahead and put that in there, and make sure you grab your catch. There it is. And the little rubber piece is really important. It does perform as kind of a catch guide. I'm not sure how, but it does. So you're going to make sure that that's actually down in there and not sticking up like that, because that's no bueno. But pull it back, push that down in there, it's good to go. And of course, before you do any of that, just have your catch lazily put on there. That makes it a little bit more difficult to pull back because you can't get a grip on it, but put that there. And to put it back together, this is that one piece. This is actually what holds the blaster up when it's whipped until you press the little button, which triggers that to make it go in like that. But you got that there. Your gears, Remember, shortest to longest. So longest, medium, short. Then the easiest way I found to put these gears back in is do this one first. Remember to put it like this and not like this, because that's what I did to get no power out of it. Then this guy facing up. Should be pretty simple once you kind of look at it. I'm sure some of you played Mousetrap before. It's just like that. Then this spring right here is actually the original catch. I damaged the spring that was originally on here, but all it's to do is just to make sure that that gear is pressed down, so you don't need any kind of powerhouse. This is just a stock spring from a Fire Strike, I believe. I don't know, it's just one I found on the floor. And I did have to improve that, and I did improve... crap, I didn't quite show it, but the one... we'll show it really quick. This spring that's on this moving plate, I did have to replace, because it is a catch, and it needed to be much stronger to deal with the force of the whipping. So I replaced it again with just that random pack of springs from Home Depot. I'm sure you can find the same thing there. If not, just try to find a spring in your collection that fits. Always, whenever you take apart a blaster, save the springs, because they can be invaluable. So we got all that. Put that back together. And wherever I put my catch... Good job, me. I just figured to... Yeah, I just lost it, didn't I? That's okay. I've got another one around, but to get that, just make sure that you put the handle... You'll feel it click in when it's in there. And then this part right here, just make sure it's aligned with that ridge. And it'll go back on. And you can actually hold the blaster together and test it. Wow, I don't even have that catch spring in there and it still catches. Yeah, so it actually does have two catches and only needs one of them, but you want to have both, otherwise it won't function properly. But once you get that done, if you're going to paint it, I'm no means an expert at this, but I start with 120 grit sandpaper and I cleaned up everything. You want to scruff it all up so the paint can get into it. Try to get every little edge with it, everything. I actually took the Dremel and a sanding wheel and carved off all the warning stuff and the Boomco right there. And just, go slow. It'll come right off. But start with this, and then I work my way up to 400 grit sandpaper. I go 120, 300, and then 400. And that'll make it nice and smooth and help get rid of a lot of those scratches. And then go over it with, I'm going to use Krylon Fusion, that's the only thing I have, but a lot of people like to use vinyl dye, which you can find in automotive shops for painting like your car seats and stuff like that. But it works once you got it all sanded. The other thing you're going to want to probably do is take a rag and take some rubbing alcohol. This is isopropyl, but just put a little bit on there and wipe everything down. What that's going to do is that's going to get off any of the grease on the blaster that could prevent the paint from sticking. And just go over it with a couple of light coats. You don't want to paint any of the internals because that can stop them from functioning properly. And for me, like I said, I'm not going to paint this at all. I'm just going to take all the internals out, paint it, and hope to God that these wheels don't get messed up. And if not, I'll just go over them with some goof off and acetone and really lightly try to get it off and then rinse them off so I don't actually damage the plastic. But that's how easy it is to take apart and how to do this. You should kind of see what I did. I no means did a good job on this, but it's functional, it works, and once it's painted it won't look half bad. But that's how I got to this point. Now I'm going to show you it firing before I do anything else, and then I'm going to paint it and we'll kind of see what it looks like with my paint job afterwards. We're upstairs now, about 15 feet or so from the wall. I mean, not too far, but this is just to kind of give you an impression of how fast the darts move, which is kind of hard to see on YouTube, but more importantly, how hard they hit the wall at. Start with the sling failure here, I mean the sling fire, and to make sure there's no kind of issues with it being magazine fed and darts not sealing properly, we're going to breech load it. So, we're actually going to come in here from the bottom, load a dart in there, push it in as far as we can get it, and fire it. Wow, man, look at that power. By the way, people keep saying that oh, I might have just had a lemon, or hey, it's very good, you're just not using it right. No. Blaster, I have 2 of them, are both horrible. Cat, dog. Don't ever shoot at your pets. But, again, garbage. So, next up, hammer shot. Now, I'm going to try to get these off as fast as I can to kind of show how much better the whip messenger is, but even if you're like just two-handing it, just to make sure that you get a proper grip on your thumb, not bad, but you're never going to hold it like that. You're going to pull it out, go like that, and then not many people will probably ever use this in the middle of a war, but I found that in the middle of a war, it's really easy to not prime it and have darts all over the place. And finally, the whip messenger. Now I'm going to try to do this as fast as I can, just to kind of show you how awesome it is, because it is awesome. Ooh, what happened there? So, that happens when you don't prime the blaster fully. I'll have to redo that one. It's just not fair. When you don't prime the blaster all the way, the plunger will come back, not get caught, and then push forward, which will shoot all the darts out. So let's try that again. Moderately harder, and remember this thing is still completely bone stock. No kind of work has been done to the spring or the air delivery at all. So, I'm going to paint it, and we'll show you how it looks like after that. And here's what I came up with after yesterday and today of painting. Started off with just flat black Krylon Fusion, and then came back on it with some of these Testors enamel. These are at least a decade old. They could be 2. I have really old paints and really old brushes, and I'm not very good at, I mean, I can do better than what I did here, but since I covered it with enamel and then tried to paint over it with acrylic, I just couldn't get the sharp lines that I wanted. But still primes, still fires, works really good, and I'm glad I made it. I'm not sure what that crack's from. Probably when I was putting it back together. Oh well, you can't win them all. But hey, still primes and fires, and now it actually looks like one whole blaster. It doesn't look like 2 anymore. So, I'm quite happy with that, actually. And I hope this will encourage you to go off and do your own kind of things, because, like I said, there was no guide and nothing really set out to do this, and I'm an amateur and I went out and did it. So, there you are, and go make yourself some pretty cool blasters. And I'll see you guys later.